Hi, I'm Cameron Alters, and today we're going to be learning how to do the quadratic formula. First, you may ask, what is the quadratic formula? The quadratic formula is as written. Negative b plus or minus radical b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. In order to solve for the quadratic formula, you have to use the quadratic equations. The quadratic equations here is ax squared plus bx plus c is equal to 0. Let's try an example. Here the problem will be 3x squared plus 5x minus 7 equals 0. Our example problem is going to be 4n squared plus 11n minus 69 is equal to 0. As you can see, I lined up the numbers and variables together with a equaling to 4, b equaling to 11, and c equaling to negative 69. As you can see, the 4 lines up with a, 11 lines up with b, and negative 69 lines up with c. Now, if we plug these numbers in to our quadratic formula, we will have our formula being x equals negative b plus or minus radical b squared minus 4ac over 2a. Plugging these variables 4, 11, and negative 69 into the formula. Problem, we will be using n because that is the variable in the problem. Here, I plugged in the formula into our problem and I received n equals negative 11 plus or minus the radical of 11 squared minus 4 times negative 69 all over 2 times 4. When you multiply the terms in this equation, you have n is equal to negative 11 plus or minus the radical of 121 plus 1,104 over 2 times 4, which equals 8. And that is your problem. Next step is to add the numbers within the radical. Now we're going to have n equals negative 11 plus or minus the radical of 1,225 over 8. Next step is to separate the solutions. First, we're going to have negative 11 plus 35 over 8. And as you can probably guess, since it's plus or minus, our separate solution is going to be negative 11 minus 35 over 8. And that's our two solutions that we just broke up. Those will both be n equals for both solutions. Next step, we're going to calculate the value. After adding and subtracting, I got the solutions of negative 23 over 4 and 3. I got these by doing 35 minus 11 equals 24, and 24 divided by 8 is 3, and doing negative 11 minus 35 over 8, which is equal to negative 23 over 4. Here are the images of the work that we did in the past problem, and you can look at these for reference if you missed something while I was explaining. Now on to the next problem. Because I did a thorough and lengthy explanation in problem number 1 to make sure you guys understood the quadratic formula, problem 2 will be very brief since I have everything already written down and I want you to understand the concept of problem 2. First step is to identify the problem. The problem in here is 2x squared minus 8x minus 24 is equal to 0. As we line the variables up, a equals 2, b equals negative 8, and c equals negative 24 because of where they stand in the equation. Plugging that into x equals negative b plus or minus the radical of b squared minus 4ac over 2a will give us x is equal to negative 8 with an additional negative on the outside, which transfers to plus 8, plus or minus the radical of negative 8 squared minus 4 times 2 times negative 24 over 2 multiplied by 2. Next, we simplify and multiply. Here we're going to have x equals 8 plus or minus the square root of 64 because negative 8 times negative 8 is equal to positive 64 plus 192. The 192 is positive because we had two negatives, which transferred to a positive. And as you can see up here, we had the two negatives, and now we have plus 192. That leads us to 64 plus 192, which gives us 256, and leaves us with x equals 8 plus or minus the radical of 256 all over 2 times 2, which is 4. We're going to separate the solution, so we have 8 plus 16 over 4 and 8 minus 16 over 4. We got that from plus or minus 8/16 over 4. Now we're going to have 8 plus 16 is equal to 24 over 4, and 8 minus 16 is equal to negative 8 over 4. Our answers leave us with 24 divided by 4 is 6, and negative 8 divided by 4 is negative 2, with our answers of 6 and negative 2. Thank you for tuning in, and now try these on your own.
The quadratic formula is negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus